Black Phone 2 comes out this weekend, and I'm here to answer probably the biggest question that we are all asking in regards to this movie. Why has it got to be a black phone? Let's get into this review. Welcome back to The Cinefanatics. My name is Robert Adams, and again, I'm talking about a horror movie, which means you get just me for here on Cinefanatics. Welcome to the channel. Today, I am giving a spoiler-free review for Black Phone 2. I did see this back at Fantastic Fest back in September, which was just last month, so it's not really that far away, but still, I am here to give a spoiler-free review about it. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, give me your thoughts, all, YouTube things. Let's get into this review, because apparently, according to YouTube, you don't like it when I plug things, so right into the review, let's go. Let's start off with the good stuff about this movie. Right off the bat, the very first thing that I noticed about this movie that I absolutely loved is they shifted the focus from Mason Thames' Finney to Madeline McGraw's Gwen. And I know, her character in the first movie did have a small bit of subtext. It was her and her dream. Essentially, she's got the Shining kind of powers. For background, the first book is based off of the first movie is based off a book by Joe Hill, who is the son of Stephen King. So you're going to see a lot of connections, a lot of how this fits into the Stephen King realm of kids having supernatural powers way back in the day. You're going to see a lot of that semblance in the Black Phone series overall. Now in Black Phone 2, we're more focused on the fact that Gwen had these dream-like powers-ish, where she could kind of see hints or clues as to what's actually going on. And this movie really focuses more on that than it does anything else. And the next thing I'm talking about here is kind of both a good and bad. I like that it shifted that focus to Gwen. And real quick, again, Madeline McGraw does a phenomenal job in this movie. She takes the little bit that we get from her in the first movie, and every single moment that you like from her, she expands upon that in great detail in this movie. Her passionately crying out to her father, dreams are just dreams, that comes back in a way that I feel really helps cement the character, and I love how she just carries pretty much this entire movie. Mason Thames is good, coming back as Finn, not Finney, but you see him dealing with the fallout of all the trauma and everything he went through in the first movie. I know the first movie ended with him going back to school and hey, I'm kind of a badass. I killed a serial killer, and yeah, you want to get to know me and be my friend. But anyone who's been through something traumatic like that in their life knows that might be in the situation of the first movie, that might be the initial reaction, but there's some long-term effects. And this movie does a good job of diving into that. So I love what they did with that, just really changing up the siblings, how their focus is, and also how the movie focuses on the siblings themselves. And that being said, there is a change of this angle story-wise. This is where I'm going back to. This is both good and bad, depending on your perspective, how you feel about it. I'll talk about this more when I get into the bad things, but I like the change of the focus. The best way I could describe it, and this is kind of an extreme example, is if you're familiar with the first two original Halloween movies were all about Michael Myers, and then we had this weird change of focus in the third movie to this Season of the Witch, everything involving the masks and stuff. By the way, I highly recommend Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. This is a good season to watch it, so make sure you go check that out as well. I like how it did that. Now, for the Halloween movies, there's a reason why they did that. I'm not getting into that right now. But I like that they did that kind of an idea with the Black Phone series. We switched from the first movie was we knew who the killer was. We knew Finney got kidnapped. We just need to find where the killer is. We need to get to him and everything involved in that. In this movie, the grabber is already dead. Spoilers for the first movie if you haven't seen it, but I mean, why are you watching this review or Black Phone 2 if you haven't seen the first movie? Duh. So the grabber's dead. So there's some supernatural influence that may be involved in this, and it's kind of interesting seeing how that changes. We're no longer looking for where the grabber is so we can locate him and stop him. We're now trying to figure out what's going on in the past. It's really hard to talk about anything more without diving into the spoilers of it. The other thing I really enjoyed out of this is the religious subtext. The camp that they go to in this movie is a religious campsite. There's elements of it that I feel like kind of reminded me of like a religious camp that may be like a conversion camp. Like this is where you may get sent if you are gay or bi or trans, and your parents are sending you to this kind of camp to help convert you back to being straight. Like this, I don't feel like it is that kind of camp, but there is elements of that, especially with a couple of people who are running this camp. So there is some religious subtext. That religious subtext I like in this because it kind of mirrors what we see on social media right now. Right now in 2025, there is a lot of political discussion on social media, and trust me, I'm not diving into this, but basically it is a lot of a huge group of people that saying I'm Christian and you should not be living your life like this, and they're seemingly condemning other people because of their life choices. When in reality, the way religion is, I am Christian. I believe that it is love thy neighbor and hate the sin, not the sinner type of idea. So if you are gay, yes, that is against the Bible, but I'm not the Bible. I'm a human being. I don't care. You are welcome in my home, in my church, and whatnot. You being gay that's a sin. That's between you and God, and you will deal with that later. That's not my place to judge or condemn you for anything. And that's basically what I feel like this movie is hitting, is those kinds of subtext. Real quick, off to the side, at Fantastic Fest, I did get to sit down and have a talk with C. Robert Cargill, who is Scott Derrickson's writing partner on a lot of his movies. And that was so much fun. If you ever get a chance to come to Fantastic Fest here in Austin, Texas, highly recommend it. It is so much fun, like who you get to meet and talk to, things that you hear, of course the movies you get to see, like seeing Black Phone a month before it comes out. So if you're a YouTuber, you want to make content, that is a good way to make content. See these movies early, be able to make this content, these reviews early so people can see it. I sat down and had a talk with him. He said there was a lot more religious aspects to this movie that they had to cut, unfortunately, to keep the run time down. But I mean, I understand that. I get that. It's interesting. I love the cinematography of this. Most of this movie does take place at this campsite, which this camp is on the side of a lake and giant mountains that are snow-capped. It is gorgeous. We see this whole scenario, this whole landscape, both in daytime and at night, and it is gorgeous in both. The way this movie shot, just absolutely, I love it. Just, I can't praise it enough. And that's just for the landscape cinematography. There is also the cinematography of how some scenarios are shot. Going back to Gwen and her dreams, a lot of these dream sequences that we see are very much invoking like Nightmare on Elm Street type of vibes, and they also separate it from reality by adding in what looks like a lot of like Super 8 grain footage Like, if you've seen those older movies where there's grain and noise all over the screen, you understand what I'm talking about. Like, it's not as crystal clear as, like, say, this video that you're watching right now. It's got noise, it's got visual noise all over the place. In some cases, I don't like that. It's very distracting, but in also, it can be very helpful depending on what you're doing. You want to make a movie look like it was shot a long time ago? Add that grain effect because it invokes that Super 8 idea, and I love that they add that specifically to the dream sequences in this movie. It's a nice way to not only separate reality from the dream, but then to also just give us a different kind of flair to it. Like, make it enjoyable to watch. You're noticing, like, the details and stuff, and I love when filmmakers have that kind of technique. It's what makes me passionate about wanting to watch a movie and noticing those things while you're enjoying the story. I absolutely love the fact that they did that. Next thing, Robin's actor, Miguel Mora. It's weird because he's kind of a side character, and normally when I'm doing a review, I wouldn't want, like, necessarily, like, hype up the side characters. The thing I like about this is Miguel Mora, who played Robin in the first movie, which, again, spoilers for the first movie, he died. But the actor is back in this movie playing his younger brother. For context, we see both Finney, Mason Thames, and Madeline McGraw's Gwen. They are both visually older. You can tell that they are older. You can tell that time has passed since the first movie. Miguel Mora, he looks younger in this movie. They do a phenomenal job of making him the younger brother because he really does look and feel like the younger brother to Robin in the first movie. Like, phenomenal job at that. I absolutely adore that. And then the other good thing that I will always praise, if you saw my my ranking of Fantastic Fest movies, I have to mention this. I am a giant Pink Floyd fan, and apparently so is Scott Derrickson, because once again, he's adding a Pink Floyd song to his movies. Black Phone, he added On the Run, like at the beginning of the third act. Which is off of Dark Side of the Moon. You do have, like, Doctor Strange has Interstellar Overdrive, which is funny because that comes from a Pink Floyd album where Doctor Strange is on the cover. So I love getting all of these connections. And there's another great Pink Floyd song at the beginning, towards the beginning of this movie, that just really fits the mood of what's happening. So if you're a Pink Floyd fan, enjoy. It's really good. Bad things from this movie. The stuff I did not necessarily like or enjoy. Again, going back to the theme of the movie. The first movie is, we know who the killer is. We're just trying to find where he's at. This movie is just so much supernatural. We're using Gwen's dreams to figure out what has happened at this camp and why is the grabber involved. And yes, the grabber is involved in this movie again, even though he died at the end of the first movie. There's a reason why the grabber is still involved, and it makes for an interesting concept as to what we're trying to figure out with what the grabber has done in the past at this camp. So if you are expecting more of kind of the same of the first movie, you might be a bit disappointed in that this movie shifts from a more grounded, anchored-based reality to more supernatural, and that's where this movie really just lives at, is in that supernatural feel and emotion. That being said, I do feel like the pacing is a bit slow. And sometimes I really just had a hard time keeping up with what's going on. I always like to preface this with letting you, the audience, know I deal with really bad ADHD. So it is, I would say it's easier than most people for me to break away from what's going on. And I could be sitting there in a theater seat watching a movie, completely locked in and focused on what that movie's trying to do, and then all of a sudden my brain's over here on something else. And that happens a lot when the pacing shifts in ways that I'm not expecting it to shift. And that's what this movie does. It is a bit slower. Again, because we're shifting from a more realistic reality base of the first movie to more supernatural in the second, I feel like that's what kind of helped lose me a bit in the story. That being said, I was still able to figure out what was going on. By the time the movie's over, I understand what was accomplished and why it was accomplished. It just felt like a little bit of a battle to get there. That might be just me and the way I perceive things. That's why I like to present that to you as the audience, that you may or may not have those same kind of focusing and visual issues that I do. Maybe you don't notice the pacing of this. For me, it was a bit slow and kind of just really a bit hard to get through. Like, I understand why we're at a camp. I don't understand why is there a phone booth at this camp, and why is it ringing only for, like, say, Finney for the most part in this movie. It's just really weird, and it leaves me with a little bit more questions that maybe a second viewing will answer. I mean, it's not real easy to do a second viewing at Fantastic Fest, so I am going to have to wait till I can watch this movie again to maybe see if I grasp a little bit more of what this movie was trying to drop in the meanings and subtext in it. Otherwise, this is a solid horror movie. Like, again, once you get past the fact that this is diving straight into supernatural, you're gonna have a good time. I would say if you are open to the entire theme of the movie shifting from the first one, and you did enjoy the first one in terms of characters and writing and what it was trying to do, you're going to like this one. I have heard from Fantastic Fest coming out of the screening of this, and this was the premiere screening that a lot of people went to, hearing some people say that they didn't like this one just because of how strong of a shift it was from the practical reality to the supernatural. If that's someone like you that you may not like that, I don't know what to do for you then. But just go into this knowing it is a shift in that focus. I feel like you'll probably be okay. Talking to Cargill again at Fantastic Fest, I did ask him about the prospects of a Black Phone 3. Could we keep this train chugging along? And his answer verbatim was, I absolutely refuse to do a Black Phone 3 unless I have a good story. And I know you might hear a lot of filmmakers say that. That is kind of like a very generic, like, unless I have a story I feel passionate about, I'm not making it. What I like about this, and especially coming from the writer, is in some cases, you may be aware, you have a lot of studio interference when making a film. If you make a movie for Disney and it does very well, Disney likes money and wants to see more money, so give them more money. I don't know why I'm trying to like sound like Mr. Krabs and me money here for a minute, but that's Mr. Krabs is really a movie studio. I like me money, give me more money. And I know this is going to be a case where like you may have studios saying like, hey, Black Phone 2 was a success. Let's get a sequel. Make the story good. And I feel like this is something I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot right now, specifically with the Strangers franchise. Those of you who might not be familiar, they released the Strangers back in like 2008, 2009, and they made a sequel to it. And then, like last year, they went back and just started over with The Strangers Chapter 1. This year, we've released Strangers Chapter 2. I passed on seeing it at Fantastic Fest because I didn't see Strangers Chapter 1. And plus, I also heard that Strangers Chapter 1 just really wasn't that good. And judging by the reviews and reactions of Strangers Chapter 2, I'm inclined to say, like, good job. I'm glad I didn't give away one of my movie slots to seeing that. They have filmed a Strangers Chapter 3 as far as I am aware. I don't know if the studio's wanting to push to release that, but I like the fact that this is something that we understand that, like, hey, if this makes money, it makes sense to make a sequel to make more money. If Black Phone 2 does well, the studios may call for a Black Phone 3. And going back to what Cargill said, he's not going to make one if he doesn't feel like the story is good enough. And as the writer for these movies, I love that there's a solid foundation behind how these movies get made. Again, make sure you come to Fantastic Fest. You get to talk to filmmakers. There's a lot of filmmakers who are just randomly out and about talking to people in the crowd. So I've been to Fantastic Fest 3 times now. All 3 times, Scott Derrickson and Cargill have been out and about, available to talk to. So come check it out. It's a lot of fun. That is going to be my review for Black Phone 2. I had a lot of fun with this movie. It's very interesting. There's aspects of it that I can't wait to see again on a repeat, or maybe when Dead Meat does the kill count for Black Phone 2, because the kill count for Black Phone 1 did answer a lot of my questions from that movie as well. So make sure you follow them, check that out when that comes out. Otherwise, make sure you come back here to Cinefanatics. We got more movies that we're going to be reviewing. I saw a lot of movies at Fantastic Fest that have yet to come out, that will be coming out in the coming months, so I cannot wait to share my thoughts, feelings, and opinions with you on all of those movies. Make sure you follow us at The Cinefanatics on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can follow me personally at RCA Reacts on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Letterboxd, also youtube.com/@RCA Reacts. Thank you for watching this video. I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.